Hello, everybody, and welcome to our edition of Unlocked today. We are today discussing kind of what is sports, and for sure, we're not looking at the Super League or anything like that we've been discussing the last few days, but we're talking about digital sports, eSports, and we have a wonderful guest who I will introduce in a bit. But first, let me introduce my co-moderator, who is Marco Preuss.
Hey.
Marco, good to have you as usual.
Yeah.
We, just for you to be aware, we are not taking questions in real time, but if you leave them in the chat, we will try to take them in whenever we have a chance. Marco, are you a gamer? I really don't know, actually.
So it really depends on time. I like gaming when I have time for, also to relax, but I wouldn't consider myself as a hardcore gamer.
So what do you play?
A lot, like from the so-called ego shooter kind of stuff to Zelda, like the whole Nintendo world, everything, but just like it depends on my mood, basically. But I also like science fiction games, like Everspace, for example. I really enjoyed that one.
Our guest today is most likely has a more extensive list of games that he likes. His name is Fredrik Lidholt. He rather listens to Edenal, as far as I understand. He's the CEO of the European Speedrunning Assembly, and as such, he organizes break the record events in quite simple words. The idea behind these events is to play a game faster than anyone before, and let's bring him in then. And here he is. Hello, Fredrik.
Hey.
The most important question first. Is it Fredrik or Edenal?
So, what's your favorite game? Let's start with that. I guess Rainer is still missing his point of view on this. What's your favorite game? Did you mention that?
No, I didn't mention it. FIFA is my game, actually. I've been playing FIFA since 1997 or 1996, and I'm still bad at it, which is really annoying. And it's also not very, very helpful if you want to be a speedrunner. I'm just being told that nobody can hear Fredrik. I think this should be fixed now. So most likely people have not really heard you for the last for your last answer. So Marco asked, which is your favorite game? So let's do that again. Which is quite traditional, old school, even maybe. Why? How? What's? Oh gosh, they're still not hearing you. My gosh, let's try this again. I don't know. Today is a day of trouble, obviously. Edenal, could you speak again and see if they're now hearing you?
I can have a monologue. Yeah, sure.
Can continue. Just
yeah. I don't know why. I don't know why people like Heroes of Might and Magic 3 over 2. I think Heroes of Might and Magic 3 is broken in many ways, which makes it, in some ways, a good game for speedrunning. But for as you play it casually, you just there's a few strategies that are simply overpowered. You just roll Sir Mullish, get angels, and get first attack every time, and it's completely ridiculous. And there's some oddities with one of the spells, Firewall, where you can trick the AI to just kill itself, which is super broken for speedruns, because if you get that spell, which you can get quite early, you can manipulate a much more powerful opponent to defeat themselves, and you don't need to have any resources or troops. So, hi everyone.
It worked. They can hear you now. It's amazing. Sorry for that little glitch at the beginning. So I think we spent like 5 minutes with nobody hearing our guest, actually. But at least you now know that I'm playing FIFA, and I guess you heard a bit of Edenal talking. In the last few minutes. So we wanted to have a look at a video from the last Break the Record thing now, but as I said, everything that can go wrong goes wrong today, so somehow that doesn't work. Esports. Would you consider speedrunning esports?
Yes, definitely.
So there's not like I don't know, is there a rivalry between other esports and speedrunning? Anything like that?
No, I don't think so. Yes, I consider speedrunning an esport, but speedrunning is also a hobby. Like it can exist in like so many places at the same time. I think the competitive aspect of speedrunning makes it a great candidate for an esport. But you can also just play it for your own leisure. That's how I started with speedrunning, really. Like, I saw the childhood favorite game of mine that no one really had attempted to speedrun properly. So I took it upon myself to do it, and suddenly now I was a speedrunner.
So when you say this, I mean, sports in general, also esports and stuff like that, you always have to like follow the strict rules, which basically define the structure of the sport and category you're in. How is it with speedrunning? Do you have like really strict rules, things you can do, things you cannot do, or should not do, you're not allowed to do? Like, I mean, cheating, for example, that's quite a huge topic, especially when it comes to games and you want to take advantage. So, what competitive rules, policies, is there any?
Typically, speedrunning is so wide. Like there's no one rule set that fits any game. You should. The basic is you don't use cheat codes, and that's really it. If you can use the game, a mechanic in the game to your advantage, you should do that. An example of that would be in Zelda Ocarina of Time, where it's simply a lot faster for Link to go backwards. Like the movement speed is not really double, but it's a lot faster. So you use that mechanic to go fast, and that's not cheating. But every community within speedrunning, they have their own rules that it's adapted and suitable for their games. So it varies between communities, but yeah, it's you're allowed to bend the rules within the game.
Okay. I mean that's
would
also
that
a rule. I mean, yeah.
Would that include that, let's say someone finds a vulnerability in the game that allows them to jump from the beginning to the end?
Yeah,
and uses that vulnerability.
That's
Yeah,
very
that would be
common
allowed?
in Sonic the Hedgehog games, classic Sonic games, for example. The level wraps around, so if you can, let's say the start of the level is 0.0 and the end of the level is 255 or something like that. If you can get to -1, the game will not put you to 0, but it will put you to minus, I don't know, it'll put you to the other side of the level, and that's called warping. Or level wrapping. So you can use that to your advantage, and it's quite common for games like that in the 2D area to try to push the character. If you end up inside a wall, it tries to push you out of the wall. So if you can make the game push you to the wrong direction, you end up in the end of the level, and that is very much allowed and encouraged.
So as long as you're not inserting code that would change the game, it's good. No?
Yeah, well, yeah, you could insert game as well, and that is called ACE, or arbitrary code execution, where if you can manipulate the memory of the game or the RAM of the game, for example, to replace one cutscene with another cutscene, you can replace. If you can swap those two, you can trigger the end credits, for example, and that's a different category of speedrunning, but it's possible to do in real time, and a lot of people do stuff like that in real time. It's quite. I think it's most famous in, again, Ocarina of Time and Castlevania Symphony of the Night.
So which kind of categories are there? If we look at next week, you have a Minecraft speedrun, right? It's happening on the weekend.
Yes, Friday through.
So 30th to 30th, starting 30th April. Based on Minecraft, can you explain which kind of categories there are, or are there so many that it wouldn't make any sense?
Oh, there's so many categories in Minecraft, but the category we're going to be showing off is, I would say, it's the standard or base category. It's beat the game. It's got a more fancy name than that, but you load a random world, and your goal is to slay the Ender Dragon at the end of the game. And you could. There's a lot of other categories, but it's the essentially beat the game category.
Mm-hmm. And your events usually are beat the game category?
Yes.
So, I mean, when it's events, I mean, you have your organization, and it seems like, I mean, we had it in the beginning, a bit of this if there is a competition between like a speedrun and classic esports, but still, I mean, do you see yourself like as an organization and kind of competition with other organizations, which do, I don't know, the regular esports, but many people consider as like League of Legends, or I think FIFA is also like this, soccer, football games is also a category. Or how do you see us? Are you connected somehow? Do you have communication channels? Do you have a common platform? Do you see yourself as competition with other organizations? How that, like the organization, the background works, all of that?
I don't see ourselves as rivals or competitors. We exist in the same space, but there's no more rivalry between speedrunning and League of Legends esports than there is between soccer and hockey, or curling or pole vaulting. we all exist in the same space, and there are some places where we overlap. I think ESA, or the organization I'm a part of, we are more facilitators of events rather than participants in the events. So we also do a lot of other stuff like ESA Marathon, which is a charity marathon that's where we raise money for charity through a long series of game showcases, and it's also like the second largest community meetup in speedrunning.
The whole eSports topic. I mean, when we posted this, when we announced this stream, and the question was up, should eSports be Olympic? Someone then posted, no, only physical sports should be Olympic. And I remember when I was a kid, I was playing a lot of FIFA soccer, as I mentioned before, and my dad at some time said, nobody is interested in someone who can play football on a computer. He was obviously quite wrong. But for that generation, still playing a computer game could never be sports. 5 years ago, for the first time I was at an eSports event. It was League of Legends quarterfinals, Fnatic against, who was it, EDG, in the Wembley Arena in London. After that, nobody can tell me anymore that this is not sports. It was crazy. I incredibly enjoyed that without having the tiniest, faintest idea what League of Legends was. How would you define sports? Not esports, but what makes sports for you?
Competition. It doesn't matter if it's a team sport or if it's individual sports. Like if you're competing against someone, either another team or if you're competing against yourself and time, sports, the competitive aspect is what I would define as sports.
So will it go to the ultimate next level, which like in the physical world is like Olympics, of course? Do you think it will go in this direction in future as well? Or will it also be like separated as it's kind of now? Like how would this physical sports and esport categories evolve over time? I know it's difficult.
I personally don't think esports and what we're doing belongs in the Olympics. We're good where we are. Like we don't, honestly, the Olympics needs esports and us more than we need them. So I think also esports and like speedrunning is still in a very early stage. Like we don't have international overarching organizations that define rules. It's still very, very grassroots and community driven. If you just look at any of the smaller game communities that might consist of 3 to 5 people, like would you wouldn't want a overarching organization come in and say, this is how you time your game, this glitch is not allowed. It just wouldn't make sense. Esports, like in general, I think esports is just fine, like without the Olympics. There's other challenges to be part of the Olympics. For example, like the publishers of a game, like they would be the ones dictating the rules. Like if Valve would release a patch during the Olympic finals, like is the Olympic Committee gonna stop that? No, I mean Valve does that shit all the time, releasing patches during tournaments, but that's another story. Yeah, I think esports is just fine without the Olympics. Olympics needs esports more than the other way around.
Should there be e-Olympics then?
There already kind of are, right? Like you got the Worlds in League of Legends. Isn't that essentially the Olympics? There's the international in Dota. There's huge Fortnite tournaments. Like there's already big tournaments. There's already the e-Olympics, if you want to call it, within a lot of the games.
I found it interesting yesterday. I don't know if you followed all these football Super League things the last 2 days. I think it was difficult not to hear about it, but Florentino Perez said that football matches for kids are too long because they are used to playing computer games and everything needs to be faster, and it's not fast enough. I found that quite interesting. I mean, it's obviously something different, but is that kind of a strong indication of how powerful esports is today, and how traditional sports are maybe even a bit afraid of it?
I don't know. I don't think so. I think growing up in Sweden, where we have a very, very big, I'm sure you have a similar culture with junior leagues for in sports. Like, I think junior leagues, they serve a much bigger purpose than just keeping kids playing games or playing soccer. They're serving a purpose to educate and help raise and help guide, parent. There's always an adult around. That's not always the case in computer games, which I think needs to change. And when my kids grows up, and when they play video games, I want to be involved in that. I think video games and esports for younger people, there needs to be someone to fill the parent role, if that makes sense. And I think that's lacking at the moment.
I get it. Well, I mean, how could you have it looking at structures of, let's say, football associations that have millions of members and have been there for over 100 years? But if your kids would get into esports and they would get into speedrunning, how would you explain to them, or if they wouldn't get, but you want to make them interested about it, how would you explain the fascination of speedrunning? How would you say, what is the most fascinating about that?
Speedrunning is all about replayability, like adding value to an existing game. That's why I think we see randomizers or roguelikes, like games like Diablo, Path of Exile, Binding of Isaac, Spelunky, I think, or esports, a lot of esports in general, like a game is never the same game, right? In Dota, you have hundreds of heroes to pick from. Like, the combination of heroes is going to be different every time. And I think that's what speedrunners try to bring into speedrunning. They try to create a new challenge to get more out of a game they love, and by just trying to beat it quickly. And how do you beat a game quickly? You need to understand the game. You need to make a plan and then mechanically execute. And a lot of games have other factors, like are random elements. Like, a boss can spawn in 3 different places. So how do you strategize for that? Can you find a mechanic that lets you know where the boss is going to spawn? Can you change that random element? I think that's the appeal of speedrunning, to try to master something mechanically.
But how much time? I'd really be interested. I know how hard esporters are training, how much time do you have to invest to become a top level speedrunner?
Depends on your aptitude for games in general. If you want to get to the top 10% of a certain game, I don't know, 8 hours a day over. If let's, I think I want to put this in perspective. Let's take Super Mario 64. One of the top speedrunners of that game is called Cheese. He broke the record at our first Break the Record event. Was the first person to achieve a time under 1 hour 38 minutes. He started playing that game, I think, in 2017, and in early 2020, he was the best. He spent countless of days and months and grinding that game straight. So if you want to get to the top level in one of the most competitive speedrun games, expect to spend 1,000 hours. That's 10,000 hours at least. If you want to get good to compete in a less competitive game, you can enter one of the 12-hour challenges. And you can learn a speedrun in 12 hours and be relatively successful. So there's a very wide scope. But I would say if you should be prepared just to reset and do a lot of attempts.
I guess that's common for many.
You already replied to a question we had there. Sorry, Marco, go ahead.
No, I just said, I mean, that's like, basically it's a lot of dedication and time needed to really train into something to get good. From your perspective, like talking about the people nowadays, the kids, probably many ask which is the one for the future, like which game really has the biggest potential to be like this leading thing. I mean, a simple comparison to like physical games. I mean, and in Europe, clearly soccer is like the leading game, sports art whatsoever. And then all the others comes like second, third, lower. From your perspective, I mean, I guess you have, especially through speedrun, you have quite a huge and good overview about the scene itself, about the different categories of games and the dedication of people and the sizes of the communities. What's your bet, I would say?
In which speedrunner, which game's going to be the most popular in the future?
Yeah, which game will be the top one?
There's really no question about it. Like, if you just look at the numbers, it's Minecraft. Like, no other games even close in popularity or participating players. It's also quite interesting because the Minecraft speedrunning community eluded me for quite some time because they're huge on YouTube and have just started to come onto Twitch. I heard an interview for a while back where they were talking about Minecraft on YouTube, and it's been consistently the biggest category on YouTube for 10 years. So like, if you're the biggest category on YouTube for 10 years, there's going to be a speedrunning scene there, right? And now in the recent years, we started to see some of the really big influencers, big streamers on both Twitch and YouTube, trying their luck at speedrunning, which is also driving more interest towards speedrunning. I saw not very long ago a graph of showing like the search interest on Google for the term speedrunning versus esports. And speedrunning is trending up above esports, and I think that's largely due to not only the popularity of speedrunning rising, but also a lot of the big streamers trying out speedrunning, and their fans like, oh, what's this speedrun? I want to find out. And this is just the word speedrunning has been transcending into mainstream media quite frequently in the past years. When I started speedrunning, there was like, what's speedrunning? Is that like running fast? Is that a marathon? It's like track and field. No, it's video games. But now when you say speedrunning, the chance that someone's going to confuse you for track and field or actual like outdoor running, physical running, the chances are much less that there's going to be confusion there.
Oh, that's true.
But Minecraft leads to the event next week, basically. So that's when you'll have seven players, I think, right? Compete for the record there. When you do these record events, do you always get a record?
So far, yeah.
That's good.
There's no guarantee, but I don't know. We'll see. I'm not ruling it out for Minecraft, but looking at the break the record format, and we were kind of. Some people were super skeptical, like, no one's going to break a record. Like, it's never going to happen. It's too hard. It can't be done live. There's too much pressure, yada, yada, yada. But if you look at the actual numbers, okay, you have 7 players with world record potential. They're going to be doing 6 to 8 hours of attempts per day on average. And multiply that by 3 days. So what you end up with there is nice fly. what you end up with there is actually like good probability that it's going to happen. Especially when you know that a lot of the players have been on world record pace, so they have good attempts that have failed for one reason or the other. So it's a numbers game. Like, that's really like what it is, and it's a good numbers game. I would not bet against the house on a world record being broken at to break the record. That seems like a bad bet.
Cool. We think we have to slowly wrap up. Marco, do you have a final question or anything?
Yeah, of course. I mean, the question itself. Starting from now, a few years in the future, let's say 25, 30 years, how do you see esports either compared to physical sports or in general? Like, how will it be when our kids are our age, basically? How do you see it?
Good question. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I mean, personally, I'm a big fan of traditional sports. I'm a huge hockey fan. I go to hockey games whenever I can, and I've been there for Sweden winning the World Cup. I've been there for my local team winning the championship. I've been there for my home team being promoted to the top league. Like, I think physical sports is just too strong to be overtaken by esports or computer sports, because there's maybe 30 years, but the grassroots needs to mature and grow up to the next level before that can happen. Hockey is still the same sport. I mean, rule changes and players getting better. Sure, it's still the same sport like it was 30 years ago. Like, if you look at esports 30 years from now, if you look at Dota 10 years from now, not the same game. It's the same objective, but it's changed a lot. And I don't think the games we have today are going to be with us 10 years from now. Definitely not 30 years from now. It's going to be next one. League of Legends. That's not that's an indie game initially. Dota, mod, Counter-Strike, mod. It's like it's all of these big games that we're talking about that are the cornerstone of esports. They were not made to be esports. They grew out of a scene of passion, of a grassroots scene, and they need to mature and like grow up further until I think they can overtake traditional sports. And of course, there's other blockers there in the way, like who owns soccer, who owns hockey. Like, you can pick up a ball and kick it around, but if you want to go and broadcast a Kiddie League game, you can do that because no one owns soccer. But if you want to go and broadcast Dota, you need to go to Valve and get the approval. And I think that can be problematic. I think that can be really problematic in growing esports. And yeah, welcome to my TED Talk. That was a long rant about.
No, that's interesting. These insights are interesting.
It also leads to not so much a question, but more comment from Daniel Stevenson in the chat, who says, one thing that is sad in the recent times is the increased goal in commercialization of speedruns and the speedrunning scene. Now, obviously, you're playing a role in commercializing the speedrunning scene. What would you reply to that kind of criticism?
I disagree that it's sad. I think that commercial speedrunning can exist alongside hobbyist speedrunning. They are not competing, right? The same way I can enjoy playing floorball with my amateur friends once a week and play a really amateur and dangerous league, while there exists huge leagues and world championships. The one doesn't hinder the other. I think they can both exist, and I think they should exist.
I mean, in the end, with all sports out there, commercialization also led to making it more popular, right? So
hopefully,
I would agree with you there. Cool. We are really running out of time, so Edenal, thank you for being with us today. This was really fascinating. Marco, what did you learn today?
I will have a look at the recordings, definitely, and at your next event to learn more. I'm pretty excited about it. Sounds interesting.
Yep.
It's gonna be massive. It's gonna be, if you like Minecraft and if you like speedrunning and if you want to know about Minecraft speedrunning, that's your crash course, right? It's gonna be fantastic.
Reminder: it's happening. Happening next week, 30th of April to 2nd of May, and 7 players trying to break the Minecraft speedrun record, and that should be super, super fascinating. Thank you again, Fredrik. Thank you, Marco.
Thank you for
to
having
everyone who was watching, thank you that you were here. Please continue commenting, asking, keep the discussion up in the comments. And in a month from now, we will be back here with a new episode of Unlocked. And so for now, the only thing that's left to say is stay safe, stay healthy, and see you in a month. Thank you again, everybody.
Bye-bye.
On the And in theory, we should be out, but I can't guarantee. So let's check. See you in a month. Thank you again, everybody.
There's quite some delay.
If I can reply to you.